Radio Company presents another adventure into the transformation zone, and very simply, today it's about preventing suicide in our veterans, first responders, and others who have been traumatized in life. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stan, and I'm here to help you understand what it could be like to actually have a transforming event in your life. That's what this program is all about. You've been here before. We have Joe, my friend, and we have Kevin, and we have a group of men and women who are actually involved in a world where they're trying to actually not just change things, maybe even transform things and make a unique difference in the world. Now, this is going to be one of my favorite programs, no matter how it goes, because I am deeply committed to this project, which fascinated me. And I pray for its success because I really believe that this program, if it's successful, and I believe it can be, could literally save millions of lives. Maybe yours, or maybe somebody that you love and know. Again, Stan, Bill, and Bob, welcome to the program, and please introduce yourself to our listeners. And then I'm just going to simply say, one of you start telling your story. It's your turn in your town, and you're on.
Okay. All right. If I start, thank you, Stan. I really appreciate this opportunity to reach out to your specific audience. My name is Bob Nevins. I'm a Vietnam veteran, so I get to say, been there, done that. And when I have a conversation with a veteran that calls me, and our sole purpose, our only mission is suicide prevention. So when a veteran calls me, they have already either attempted suicide or they've been in therapy for years. And this is kind of the conversation that I would have. Okay. And it would start out, I get a call from a veteran and they'll say, hey man, I heard about your program and a friend of mine went through and he's doing really well. So I don't know anything about horses, man. And I stop them and I'll just say, well, let me ask you first, how are you sleeping? And they say, what are you kidding? I haven't slept in 50 years. I haven't slept in 20 years. I haven't slept in 5 years. I can tell you what war they've been in almost. And I say, so listen, let me share something with you. Okay. And what I'm going to share with you, you can just tell me whether or not it resonates with you as a veteran or a first responder. But what I have discovered after having done this over 1,000 times with veterans from all over the country, what actually happens to a human being that experiences trauma, whether it's war, sexual assault, on-the-job shooting, something has happened. And what actually happens to that person, it's like an emotional circuit breaker pops in their nervous system, part of that vagus nerve. And when that pops, it puts them in survival mode. It's the equivalent of if lightning hits your house and the lights go out. Why? Because the system took a shock. The circuit breaker popped to protect the house from burning down. That's exactly what's happening in a human being that's experienced trauma. The problem is they don't know that. So they wind up kind of going the mental health route where we're going to talk about this, but they can't relate to the talk. And then the medication comes out, and now we've got talk and medication, and the poor individual doesn't understand what's happened to them. So I say to a veteran, so let me ask you this. So you're not sleeping, you're angry all the time, your relationships are falling apart. And they're saying, yeah, you're right. But they understand the circuit breaker analogy. And they say, yeah, that's what happened to me. I say, I know that. So listen, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you an opportunity, if you would like, to come here to Saratoga. And we'll pay for everything. We pay hotel, airfare, whatever. Because you need to come here and have what we call the experience. I don't do what's referred to as equine therapy. I call it an experience. And the reason for that is when we do our procedure with an individual who's emotionally disconnected, it triggers a re-regulation of the autonomic nervous system, brings it back into rhythm, and the lights come back on. And that sounds pretty wild, but we now know it's not in their head. It's always in the nervous system that's shut down to protect them. So we've actually started a national study with Dr. Stephen Porges, who's a neuroscientist, and he looked at our videos and he said, "Do you know what's happening there?" And I said, "Well, not really. I've just been doing this for a while, and the veterans are all saying the same thing. The world has, you know, dropped off my shoulders. I feel forgiven. God forgave me." All these statements they're making, and I'm wondering why are they all saying the same things? Because when that vagus nerve, that nervous system comes back into rhythm, it then tells the brain, you're out of danger, you're okay. And it takes one session to do that. But there's a buildup to it because Dr. Porges and what he's introducing, this polyvagal theory, is really called the science of safety. So, in order to bring somebody out of trauma, you have to trigger this reaction. And that reaction takes place with a horse with a special procedure that we use, where the horse actually accepts them unconditionally and not as a predator, which man is. And the horse is a flight animal. Their instinct is to just flee from perceived danger. But when we get them to come together, there's a co-regulation that's starting to take place of the human nervous system and the horse's nervous system. The horse accepts them unconditionally. And when you have a 1,200-pound horse come and nuzzle you, where 10 minutes ago it was looking to get away from you, that is so powerful that that's what triggers this re-regulation. Like I say, we've done this 1,000 times. So we then expanded from veterans to first responders because trauma is trauma. 30% of what I see is military sexual trauma for people who have left the military and are still dealing with the effects. So it's a very unique program. We've been doing it for quite a while. The idea is to expand this, the knowledge of this, into the mental health community. So it's not just talk therapy, but it's actually a physical response to alleviate the effects of trauma.
I
So
have
that's,
one response to that.
yeah, go ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bill, jump in here because
Oh,
you obviously have had a wow response to this idea for some time and now you're helping him. So bring your story into this because this is truly a transformational idea, isn't it?
It certainly is, and well, let me thank you, Stan, for giving Bob the opportunity to share his story because this really is his story, and I really appreciate the ideas. I come across a statement years ago that said nobody's as smart as everybody, and you've certainly in the the little time I've known you, we met 20 years ago. We didn't even know about it until Joe Pine let me know that you had been to one of his experiences. So 20 years later, but really, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I believe it. I believe in what Bob's doing, and I'm attached emotionally to it, as Bob will probably tell you, maybe a little bit too much because I drive him crazy sometimes, with my calls and research that I keep sending him. But I came across in my background of storytelling, video production, and the last 20 years of study and experiences, uh, mainly through the work of Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore on their book, The Experience Economy. I ended up developing this this little methodology that I use to produce video, and I look in terms of helping companies and organizations, and I call it "Go for It." Find it, get it, believe it, and live it. And today we're
Say
talking
that
about
again. That's
find
important.
it, get it, find it, get it, believe it, and live it. I want to talk about finding it today because today I found this. I found a great story. Actually, this great story found me. Ken Burns, the famous historical documentary guru, had a statement in one of his works that said, uh, "Great, you can go out and look for stories, good stories to tell. We always did, but he said, great stories find you." And this is a great story because it has gotten me believing in what Bob's trying to do. I met Bob about 8 years ago through a program in Saratoga Springs that I was involved in, a veteran program, and you know, it, Bob's story really is a 50-year journey of rescuing people, if you think about it. And that story really started, or the rescuing started as a dust-off pilot, as he said, in Vietnam. What what a lot of people don't know, uh, and I think it's important to know, and I know Bob won't tell you this, but Bob is a recent recipient of the Congressional Gold Medal for bravery for his actions in Vietnam. They're being awarded as a group because of what these guys did, and most people don't know the situation they were in. There were incredible odds of Bob not coming back from his many missions flown in Vietnam. So the Bob also, in addition to the Congressional Gold Medal, was awarded 3 Distinguished Flying Crosses for his bravery in Vietnam. I think the Army Air Medal, and we could go on about the 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 recognition that the man has received. And Joseph Campbell wrote a book in 1971, probably after Bob's helicopter was shot down, and the book was called A Hero with a Thousand Faces. And A Hero with a Thousand Faces is really a book about a hero's journey. And this is really Bob's last 50 years has been a hero's journey, and it's an honor and a privilege to have Bob and to be associated with Bob, and I hope that he continues to be successful in his mission. And he's already talked about the second half of rescuing people, which involves the horse. It involves being done in a community well noted for its health history and horses, and spirit of volunteerism. So, again, we're looking forward to helping Bob spread the word, because you know what, as we talk about it, veterans are taking their own lives. First responders are taking their own lives because of trauma, and so there could be no other program that you can be in. Really, not too much. There's a lot of not great programs in Saratoga for veterans. This program really is the cause of situations and personal situations that need these other nonprofits to help people live better lives. Bob's program addresses the root problem of many people that are suffering from trauma from their service to help us keep us safe, or just says safe. Bob, this program helps people help keep, excuse me, people safe. I
Keeps them
want to
alive.
give it back to Bob because that's
Well, you
what
know
it's
what?
about.
I'm gonna just
Thanks,
give
Dan.
give an you're going to be back. Give you
Okay.
emphasis, but it's true. Those of us of that generation, you know, we I'm at the same stage. Whether I was going to get drafted or not, the war changed our lives. We just had a big anniversary reunion, and guess what we do? we go back to the small town cemetery, and what do? We honor the friends who did it. And one of my best friends, Bob, was a helicopter pilot, and that's what took his life. Had a wonderful wife and 2 children, and the word came as Bill is missing. Bill is missing, and then Bill was found. The helicopter was down. He was dead. You know, and so that's the story you came from, Bob, right?
Yeah, and all this when you're 22 years old.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you're just trying to get your life started, and so
Well,
pretty dramatic.
yeah, yeah, just bring. I know you maybe had a few pictures, but you may want to show those some other time or later. But you can honestly say, like this one film I saw about Vietnam veterans and Afghani veterans, where the therapist was in there, and the guy says to the therapist, "Tell me about your combat," and the therapist says, "Well, I'm a therapist," and he said, "You haven't been in conflict? You haven't been in combat?" He said, "Oh no." And guess what the guy did? He got up and walked out, saying, "You cannot understand me."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you keep the story going, my friend.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of it, because as the veterans reach out for help, or their families try to have them reach out for help, the people try to help them really don't understand what's happened. The families don't understand what happens. So I say to the families, look, if your son, daughter, father, uncle, whatever, if you say to yourself, something's wrong, they've changed, okay, that change that you're seeing that you don't understand is that emotional circuit breaker that's popped. So when you go and you want to talk to somebody about it, you're really so disconnected emotionally from what's being said that that doesn't work. And that's where the prescription pad comes out for veterans. I've had veterans here on 20 different medications, and they feel like zombies, you know? And I just got a call last week. My therapist took me off all my medications, you know? Well, why is that? Because the symptoms are disappearing. So you need to understand the symptoms don't need to be or should not be treated individually. Because when somebody is self medicating with alcohol, they just try to go to sleep. They didn't start out as, having an alcohol problem, but they're self medicating. So all these symptoms are a sign of this emotional disconnect. So that's why we don't get into the what happened to you. The guy sitting next to you had it worse than you did. If you want to tell a story, this poor female over here, or male, was sexually assaulted and drummed out of the military because you were ruffling feathers, and they're living with this the rest of their lives. So again, it's all about this emotional reconnection that has to take place within the individual, and that's the secret of what we do. And you know, I, I just got another feedback from a veteran. I asked him, "How you doing?" And he said, "Actually, I'm living again. It's kind of a miracle." Well, that's the kind of stuff that I hear. I tell you, I don't think the therapists are hearing that after one session. You know? And the reason for one session is a couple of day build up to it. But the reason is because you've got to get that individual to trust you. So that's why, being a fellow veteran, having been through all that combat, I can say, been there, done that. So let's forget about that. Let's get you back in rhythm here. And until it happens, they actually don't believe it. Right?
As one of my friends said, he said, "I am just sick and tired of being treated by BS babies who
Well,
don't understand what I've gone through."
yeah, that's I got to be careful what I say.
That's right. Yes.
Because I get treatment at the VA myself for
Right.
war injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
But when somebody sits here and they've crying for the first time in 20 years because her emotions are coming back. They're not breaking down. They're feeling relieved, and emotionally they're coming back online. And and unfortunately, this has a wider impact when you're really talking about the families, because I've had calls from wives, and they'll call me and they'll say, "Hey, I just want to call you. My husband Billy went through your program. He wouldn't go to anybody else, but he said he'd do your program, and uh, and I got to tell you, he's back. That's the Billy that I married, and uh, and then I know it's coming, and then they say, but what about me? I've been walking on eggshells with this guy for 15 years, with his anger, his frustration, his losing jobs. Just tell me, Bob, is this going to last?" And I say, "Yeah, it's going to last. Just give him a chance to adjust again, because he's going to want to go back to work. He's going to want to go back to college, you know." But I understand where you're coming from, because not only does suicide impact 100 something people, but the family is impacted directly by what's happened, especially in the police departments. Guy comes home, he's go down the street, but when he comes home, it's hard for him to take off the armor, you see. And so we want to get him back to normal, where he's just a loving dad doing his thing, and he's not wrapped up with this pop circuit breaker. So it's, it's a beautiful thing to watch, actually, when it happens.
Speaking speaking of watching, the Bob's program is really protects the veteran in terms of privacy. But I have witnessed the the horse end of it, the culmination of the experience, and it is really quite something to watch. It's like something that I just have never seen. It's very just very emotional and touching, and and it's just very it is difficult to describe. It's Joe Pine in his book on transformations talks about Maslow and peak experiences and so on and so forth. And it was like enlightening. And I was sitting there in the first time I witnessed this, and it made sense. So I immediately sent the the correspondence to Joe because I picked up on what he was writing about in this book. It is something special. But
Thank you so much. Now, Bob, what's next? How can we help you? How can we start to make sure this project, as you would say, or like I would like to say, because I said WW means World Wide Web.
Yeah, right.
How
Well,
can we bring this to where it is not only something that is, quote, in the medical world, experimental? Can we bring it to a point where it is truly into what would be the mainstream of how we're going to do something profoundly different in this arena?
and I think that's going to happen when Dr. Porges and the University of North Carolina publish the results of this, because they're tracking the veterans that go through the program now for close to a year. And they're going to be able to say, versus traditional mental health talk versus this emotional experience, this is how dramatic the change is. But for the moment, we need to reach every veteran that's out there that's really saying, and this is what they say when they come here, what's a horse going to do for me? Well, what a horse is going to do for you is what you don't know, but you got to come here to have this experience. And then tell me what you think. And that's when we get all these accolades from the veterans about saving their lives and stuff. So, number one, let's make sure that we're touching the family where they have a member that's struggling. And remember, it's a free program, so just give me a call. Two, it would be help to get support, financial support to keep doing what I do. And then three, this has to go out to a larger audience, because if we can prove the effectiveness of this in the veteran combat police community, this is going to affect children who are growing up that have been abused, and their circuit breakers have popped and they don't know it. And so having a program that goes beyond talk therapy, right, could be a very powerful thing. And it's going to take a while to do. But right now I can support the whole country from where I am, but we're going to have to expand this program down the road.
I think I particularly was moved by your description of the fact that it also is going to have to affect the spouse in some ways too, because her circuit breaker has popped, maybe in some cases too.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, because they're trying to protect themselves. They're trying to help the individual, and the frustration of not being able to help. Like I say to them, actually, when I talk to them, I said, look, you can't love them out of this. This is not something they can control. Okay. And you trying to love them out of it is great, but that hasn't been working, has it? No, it's not working, So I said, so let's get them here and let's address the issue directly.
This can be a help. I dealt with a woman in my performance coaching whose son had committed suicide. And she started to cry, and she said, he thought that when he committed suicide, that the pain would be gone. And she said, what he didn't know is he passed it on to all of us.
That's right. But you see, think of him to be in so much pain, to be so disconnected, you can't get beyond the nightmare that you're in. And so it's not something they're trying to do to their families. But like I say, what is it? 129 people are going to be affected, right? But when you've lived with post-traumatic stress long enough, people think it's the only way out.
Yeah. Right? Well, gentlemen, I am hoping that we can have you back again, because I think this could be something very, very significant. Right now, I'm thinking of people that I know of. I say, you ought to think about this. Right. So first of all, please give us what you can, your contact information, and so people can begin to explore this. And then please tell people how you can be supported. If you don't have a margin, it's hard to do a mission.
Yeah, right. So I would say, just start off, check out that website, alliance180.org. Number two, if you're a veteran, you're a first responder, and you hear what I'm saying, and you recognize what I'm saying, and you want help, call me. You can call me day or night. I get calls at midnight, because sometimes they think, well, if I call the guy and he doesn't answer, I can say I called. But that's just one of the tactics they use. But when you answer the phone at midnight, you say, well, what? Okay, And then when you start talking about the circuit breaker, they say, yeah, that's me, man. Okay. So call me day or night. My number's on the website. And, and if you
I'll put it, if with your permission, I'll actually put it on the video here. Is that okay?
That's great.
That'd be great. Bill, I want to thank you for coming back into my life through Joe and that connection. And I thank you, Bill, for introducing me to Bob. And both of you gentlemen have come into my life. And I can tell you that in terms of my own experience right now of saying, yeah, what has God called me to do at this burning bush stage of my life, and I can see very much that these are things that we can do that can truly make a difference, can leave a real legacy. And maybe even of the deep, deep tragedies that came out of Vietnam, and still do in many cases, that something good will emerge eventually.
Yeah. Stan, one other point, suicide itself is a tough topic for people to engage in. But what I'm trying to say is, hey, we have a solution here. Don't overthink it. Just call me. Because we lost 7,000 troops on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan. We've already lost 30,000 to suicide. There's a problem here, okay? And these individuals are not getting what they need, okay?
Oh
So,
my God, I hadn't heard those numbers.
right, right. And the Vietnam veterans, 58,000 on the ground in Vietnam, probably 4 times that amount have taken their own lives. So there's something that happens that they don't understand, that the only way out for them is to take their own life. We're telling them now that's not necessary. Okay.
That's not necessary. Those are words of hope, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the best and blessings to you, gentlemen. And obviously, I'm going to ask you to come back again with your permission.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stan.
Thank you. And thank you, people, for being a part of this. I think could be a life-changing conversation. And so we'll see you again sometime, because you just took a tour into the transformation zone, and hopefully it'll go well for you. We're here to transform lives. We're here perhaps not only to help change the world, but for some people to actually make it a different world. That's what we do, and hopefully with God's grace and help, we'll do it well. Till next time from the Transformation Zone, bye for now.